We have a pandemic that continues to skyrocket. Yesterday, I was interviewing Professor Rhoda Wanyenze. She is the head of Makerere Institute of Public Health, and she's saying that the numbers are going in all the wrong directions. Actually, the predictions are that January, February, and March will be the worst possible. And then, of course, you most probably will be president-elect. What's your plan of dealing with the pandemic? Probably your job is more likely to be a sort of Biden approach.
Let me tell you, you can call me whatever you want, COVID skeptic or whatever. You are not going to see me putting on a mask. I don't do that. I do not. Let me tell you.
You don't believe there's a pandemic?
No, there's something like that, you know, which comes and pulls and
Mr.
wait. Let me explain myself.
People have died.
Let me explain myself. First of all, the worldwide survival rate for COVID is 99%. We as a country have had bigger problems, and we still have bigger problems. There are more people who die from poverty than from COVID. Fact. There are more people, there are more women who die giving birth than from COVID.
Fact.
There are more people who die from malaria than from COVID.
The numbers argue so.
So why must
there are actually probably more people who die from road accidents than we have lost to COVID?
Thank you very much. Now, here is the
statistics don't lie. But what I want you to address.
So let me. I'm addressing that.
I'm coming. But and I'm sorry to interject. We've got to be sensitive to families that have lost people to COVID in your explanations.
Okay, we've got to be sensitive to women who have died giving birth in my explanations. We've got to be sensitive to people who have died of malaria in my explanations. I don't want us to put COVID on a pedestal where it is not. Okay? Let me tell you something. For a young Ugandan, I told you we have a median age of 15.8. Uganda.
Fact.
The median age for Europe is 40.
Fact.
They have so many old people which we don't have. Now, for somebody 40 years and younger, which happens to be almost 80% of Ugandans, you have a better, you are more likely to be struck down dead by lightning than to die of COVID. That is from the statistics.
Of course,
now you've mentioned
apart from the odd ones,
whom you also care about.
Yes,
you understand. Now, when we are doing the cares, there are people whom they call vulnerable people, and even those under 40. For instance, if you are in the latter stages of HIV and your immunity has been severely compromised, you're there. If you have, heavy diabetes and your immunity has been compromised, or old age. But aside from that, we actually have real problems. But the trouble is, I look around. And I'll tell you this, somebody was telling me that drug companies, like for instance Joint Medical Stores, made a 300% profit this year because of COVID. There are laboratories and all this. When I was going for the presidential nomination, they had to check me. So I called this guy to come and do the COVID test because it was a prerequisite. And I see him coming in all his gloves and what, and I pay him 300,000, and he has a whole line of people to test that day, either they are traveling or what. The man is making millions every day. You think he is not going to want COVID to continue? Are you kidding me? And the Minister of, you saw when Sheikh Muzata died, before anybody had spoken about the cause of death, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Diana Twine, tweets that he died of COVID. Stupidity. Wait. Because
we could do with better language.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. Put it on me. Pin it on me. Because she is one of the beneficiaries of COVID. Now there are so many beneficiaries of COVID, and they are stopping people who are just looking to earn a living from going to earn a living.
So are you saying we should concentrate on the other thing?
We should concentrate on the bigger problems that we have as a country, which are causing bigger deaths than we have here. I'll tell you this. This is the destruction of COVID that nobody talks about. Somebody was telling me just the other day that her uncle had malaria but hadn't noticed it and went to the hospital. And they said, COVID. And he said, it's not COVID. I don't have any symptoms of COVID. But because they are desperate to pile up the statistics of COVID, the man almost died of malaria. Then now when he was finally almost dying, they tested for malaria and it was plus. Then they put him on anti-malarials and he walked out of the hospital. He was going to go down as a COVID death, yet the man has died of a curable sickness because
So how do you get us out of
certain people have to earn money of COVID. We have to be very serious about these things. This is a whole business. There are so many people who are smiling to the bank, and they are going to put us down this drain where people are not earning a living. Industries have been destroyed, hotels, people have not gone back to work, diners, because people have to go back at 9 p.m. I don't know what even curfew has to do with COVID. Does it spread faster at night? There's a lot of stupidity when it comes to COVID. So I want us to be people of common sense. Now,
do you believe in statements made by international doctors like Dr. Fauci? You are taking the Donald Trump approach. You seem not to be interested in listening to the World Health Organization. You're saying that Uganda has bigger problems in maternal and infant mortality and malaria. Mosquito nets are being distributed and accidents. How would you deal with world-renowned doctors and what they've been saying about COVID?
Dr. Fauci is not in Uganda. He does not understand the problems that a Ugandan doctor knows.
Professor Wanyenze is in Uganda.
Well, let me tell you, there's a lot of, conflict in all this. COVID is the only virus where you find politicians no more than doctors. And that's the truth. It is very political. Because Fauci has said statements which are shocking. In as far as COVID is not as big a disease sickness as we thought it was. He said that himself. But the politics overcomes him. Why? Because there are some people who are enjoying the whole thing. Because it gives them power. Okay? It gives them power. Imagine something which can get you and they lock you up for 2 weeks. Now they can come and say, if they don't want me to campaign for 2 weeks, they come and say, you came in contact with somebody who has COVID, isolate, and I can't campaign for 2 weeks. I mean, there is nothing like that which, if you cannot detain somebody in our laws for 48 hours without presenting them in court.
Well,
but
so already taken out Donald Trump as president.
Well, but he got cured of it. The man is 74.
I mean, he lost the presidency because of it.
To a certain extent. I'm not so sure because of that. But then, he did not lose his life. He's 74. He's among those whom you'd think in 3 days he was up and was out campaigning. 3 days, a 74-year-old. And you tell me that Uganda's 15-year-old teenagers, 30 years old are somehow very at risk because of COVID. Let's move on to things which actually matter. Because
fantastic. Now we know your position on COVID. Let's get to something else.
Reclaiming the nation.